Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have you here today as we explore a very important topic. Today's presentation is titled The Silent Erosion, and it focuses on how relationships can gradually weaken over time. We'll look at the subtle patterns and habits that quietly chip away at connection, often without us realizing it. Over the next few minutes, we'll uncover how these small behaviors can lead to distance, resentment, and broken trust, sometimes more damaging than obvious conflicts. So, let's get started and discover how to recognize and address these silent issues before they take hold. Unmasking the unseen threats is all about understanding the subtle but destructive behaviors that can slowly weaken even the strongest relationships. Drawing on insights from psychology, we see that there are 10 behaviors to watch out for, and today I'll walk you through each one and how to avoid them. First, there's stonewalling. This is when someone shuts down instead of engaging in a conversation. Instead of working through issues, they withdraw, which creates emotional distance. Next is distraction. This happens when we fail to give our full attention, like checking our phones or zoning out during important moments. It sends a message that we're not truly present. Then we have defensiveness. When we protect our ego instead of listening openly, we shut down meaningful communication and prevent understanding. Chronic criticism focuses on flaws rather than love. Constantly pointing out what's wrong can erode the positive foundation of a relationship. Idealization is loving the fantasy of who we think our partner is, rather than accepting them for who they really are. This gap can lead to disappointment. Ignoring the past involves pretending that old wounds or issues never happened, which can cause unresolved conflicts to fester beneath the surface. Deception, such as lies or withholding the truth, erodes trust over time, making it difficult to rebuild once broken. Competition is when partners keep score or try to outdo each other instead of collaborating as a team. It creates a win-lose dynamic that damages cooperation. Public shamming turns teasing into humiliation, which can deeply harm someone's self-esteem and trust. Finally, unrealistic expectations involve expecting our partner to be a mind reader or to fulfill needs they might not even know we have. This sets us up for frustration. All these behaviors are like unseen threats. They can undermine the bond if we're not aware of them. Recognizing them is the first step in safeguarding our relationships and building a healthier, more connected partnership. Let's talk about the walls we build in our relationships, starting with stonewalling. This happens when one partner shuts down instead of engaging in difficult conversations. Instead of facing painful issues head-on, they might withdraw, stay silent, or deflect blame. While it might feel like self-protection in the moment, what it really does is send the message that your partner's concerns don't matter. Over time, these unresolved issues accumulate, and emotional walls start to form, creating distance between you. Healthy relationships require honest, even uncomfortable, dialogue. Avoiding those tough conversations only makes the wounds deeper. Now, let's look at distraction. In today's world filled with constant notifications, giving divided attention is a modern form of neglect. When you're checking your phone, multitasking, or mentally absent during time with your partner, it signals that they're not a priority. But true intimacy comes from feeling deeply seen and valued. Giving your full attention, even during small moments, reaffirms closeness and builds security. Both stonewalling and distraction are walls we often build unknowingly, but recognizing them is the first step toward breaking them down and strengthening our relationships. Let's talk about the next part of the language of disconnect, defensiveness. When we feel criticized, our natural instinct is often to defend ourselves. But here's the thing, defensiveness actually blocks genuine communication. Instead of really listening to what our partner is expressing, we focus on protecting our ego. This can make the other person feel unheard and dismissed, which only creates more distance. A healthier approach is to pause, take a breath, and listen. Try to validate their feelings, even if you don't fully agree. That openness helps build trust, whereas defensiveness just fuels conflict. Remember, it's not about winning the argument, but about understanding each other better. Now, moving on to the next point, chronic criticism. While giving feedback is important, constantly pointing out flaws can be damaging over time. When criticism becomes a regular thing, your partner might start feeling like they can never be good enough. It turns the relationship into a fault-finding mission instead of a loving partnership. What we really want is to balance feedback with appreciation. When gratitude outweighs judgment, couples tend to thrive. Focusing on what's going well and expressing appreciation helps strengthen your bond and keeps love at the center of your relationship. Let's talk about idealization. Loving the fantasy, not the person. When we put a partner on a pedestal, it might feel romantic at first, but it actually creates unrealistic expectations. We end up loving an image we have in our minds, not the real person standing before us. And that can set both of us up for disappointment down the line. True intimacy, the kind that really deepens a connection, comes from loving someone for who they truly are, including their flaws. It's about embracing the authentic human being, not a perfect, idealized version. Now, moving to the next point, ignoring the past. Pretending wounds or conflicts never happened doesn't help us grow as a couple. Every relationship has its rough patches, disagreements, and missteps. When we ignore those, it's like building on a cracked foundation. It might look fine on the surface, but under pressure, those unresolved issues can cause real damage. Healing involves revisiting those difficult moments and processing them together. Only then can we build a stronger, more resilient relationship. Ignoring the past might seem easier, but it actually leaves us vulnerable to future problems. Let's talk about the foundation of trust, which is really the cornerstone of any strong relationship. Even what we might consider small lies can actually weaken this foundation significantly. Trust is delicate, and deception, whether it's through manipulation, half-truths, or simply leaving out important details, starts to create doubt. Once doubt takes hold, it's much harder for intimacy to flourish because trust is essential for connection. Radical honesty, although it might feel uncomfortable at times, is really the only way to keep that trust intact. It's about being transparent and truthful, even when it's difficult. Without trust, love can't truly survive because love and trust are deeply intertwined. When we practice radical honesty, we're actively building and maintaining trust. On the other hand, deception erodes the very core of our connection, weakening the bonds that hold us together. So remember, honesty is the foundation. Without it, everything else just crumbles. Let's talk about the importance of partnership versus competition in relationships. When couples start to keep score, like who sacrificed more, who's right, or who owes whom, they're actually replacing love with rivalry. This mindset can create resentment and tension, turning what should be allies into opponents. A healthy relationship thrives on compromise and shared victories, not individual wins. It's about working together and celebrating each other's successes, not keeping track of who's ahead. Now, moving on to the next point, public teasing. Playful teasing can actually help strengthen intimacy, but there's a fine line. When teasing turns into mocking or belittling, especially in public, it crosses into humiliation. What might seem like a joke to one person can seriously wound their partner's dignity and sense of safety. Respect has to exist both in private and in public. When respect erodes, it damages trust and attraction. So it's crucial to be mindful of how our words and actions impact our partner's feelings, no matter the setting. Let's talk about the myth of mind reading. Many of us fall into the trap of thinking our partner should just know what we want or how we're feeling. But the truth is, people simply cannot read minds. When we expect our partners to understand us without us telling them, it often leads to disappointment. This brings us to the concept of unspoken expectations. When we assume our partner should know what we need or desire, but we don't actually communicate it, unmet needs start to pile up. Those unspoken desires don't go away, they create a gap between us. Over time, frustration builds because those needs aren't being fulfilled, and resentment can start to take hold. This frustration can cause emotional distance to grow, widening the gap even further. The good news is that healthy couples understand that clear, open communication is key. Sharing our desires vulnerably, rather than silently expecting our partner to read our mind, is the way to build understanding and closeness. It's about being brave enough to be honest and transparent, because vulnerability, not silent expectation, leads to true fulfillment in our relationships. So we've seen that relationships don't always fail because of big betrayals or just a lack of love. Sometimes it's the small, repeated patterns that gradually wear things down. These tiny habits might seem insignificant on their own, but over time, they add up and can lead to a breakdown. For example, microcriticisms, those small, often unnoticed criticisms, can create a lot of distance between partners. Cold distance, where emotional connection feels strained or absent, can also develop quietly through these patterns. Stonewalling is another big one. When one partner withdraws or shuts down during conflicts, it pushes the couple further apart. And when trust starts eroding, bit by bit, because of these ongoing small issues, the structural integrity of the relationship begins to weaken. All these behaviors, stonewalling, criticism, defensiveness, and holding onto unrealistic expectations, don't just cause momentary discomfort. They build up, creating emotional distance instead of fostering closeness. That's the key takeaway. It's these small, destructive patterns that can quietly erode the foundation of even the strongest relationships over time. Rebuilding connection is really about awareness. When we recognize these destructive habits, we open the door to replacing them with healthier, more positive behaviors. For example, practicing openness means engaging in honest dialogue, being willing to share and listen without judgment. Honesty is about upholding trust through truthfulness, which strengthens the foundation of any relationship. Attention involves being present and truly engaged with your partner, giving them your focus and energy. Gratitude is about appreciating each other, not just criticizing or pointing out what's wrong. And respect is crucial, valuing your partner's dignity and treating them with kindness and consideration. Remember, relationships don't have to be perfect. What really matters is consistent care and effort. Small, intentional actions build stronger bonds over time and help us reconnect on a deeper level.